Have you ever felt like no matter how kind you are, no matter how hard you try, someone is always there waiting in the wings to pull you back down? Maybe they do it with sarcasm, maybe it's constant criticism, or maybe it's that subtle look that says, "Who do you think you are?" Let me say this clearly. Not everyone will celebrate your growth. Not everyone is capable of it. The truth is, some people bring you down because they don't know how to rise. Their own wounds haven't been tended to. Their self-worth is shaky, and seeing you shine reminds them of everything they've buried. That doesn't make it okay, but it helps you understand that their behavior is more about them than it is about you. And jealousy, it doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers in the form of criticism, backhanded compliments, or exclusion. It might even come from the people closest to you. That's what stings the most. But remember, what they say in judgment is often what they wrestle with in private. So how do you protect your peace without losing your heart? Boundaries. Not brick walls, not silent treatments, but honest, brave boundaries that say, this behavior isn't okay with me. Boundaries don't make you cruel, they make you clear. And clarity is kindness. It's one of the hardest truths to accept, that not everyone in your life will be happy for you when you grow, when you succeed, or even when you simply choose to live in alignment with who you truly are. Sometimes the people you expected to clap the loudest will be the ones who fall silent. And that silence, it can be deafening. But here's what I want you to understand. Their lack of support says nothing about your value. Their inability to cheer for you does not diminish the goodness, the courage, or the hard work it took for you to get where you are. You are not less deserving simply because someone else can't see it. The human need to be liked and validated runs deep. We are wired for connection. So when we face disapproval or distance, especially from people we love, it can feel personal, even devastating. We start questioning ourselves. Did I do something wrong? Am I too much? Am I not enough? But their discomfort with your light is not your burden to carry. The truth is, your growth may confront something in them they haven't faced yet. Your joy might remind them of what they've settled for. Your confidence might challenge the stories they've told themselves about what's possible. And so instead of joining you in celebration, they withdraw or criticize or minimize. Don't shrink to make them comfortable. Don't dim to keep them close. You don't need universal approval to live a meaningful life. You need truth. You need integrity. You need people who love you for who you are, not for how well you fit their idea of who you should be. So if someone isn't rooting for you, let it be an invitation to root even deeper for yourself, to become your own loudest cheerleader, to find your people. The ones who don't just tolerate your light, but bask in it with you. Their reaction isn't a mirror of your worth, it's a reflection of their wounds. Your job is not to fix their discomfort. Your job is to keep walking in truth, even if not everyone claps along the way. It's a heartbreaking reality, but one that's so important to recognize. Often, the people who lash out, who criticize, or who bring negativity into your life are doing so from a place of unhealed pain. Their words, their actions, and their behavior aren't a reflection of your worth. They are a mirror of their own internal battles. When someone inflicts harm, whether intentionally or not, it's almost never about you. It's about them and the emotional wounds they've carried, sometimes for years, without the opportunity or courage to heal. People who have been hurt in the past often carry that pain with them, not as a scar, but as a living, breathing part of them. And when those wounds are left unattended, they can easily manifest as bitterness, jealousy, anger, or cruelty. Think about it. Someone who has never been given the space to grieve, to process, or to heal their own trauma doesn't have the tools to empathize or offer kindness. They have become accustomed to navigating life with walls up, defenses high, and a heart that's closed off for self-preservation. When they see others experiencing joy, success, or love, it can trigger something deep within them that feels unfair, that feels like a reminder of what they've lost, or what they've never been able to experience for themselves. And here's the thing, they may not even realize they're hurting others. It might not even be conscious. The words or actions they use may be automatic, coming from a place of deep insecurity or unresolved pain. They're projecting what's inside of them onto the world around them. But this doesn't make their actions excusable, it just makes them understandable. When someone is constantly negative or when they try to drag you down, it's essential to remember that they are likely struggling with their own unresolved hurt. They may not have found the tools to process their pain in healthy ways. They may not even know what it feels like to be truly loved or seen. And instead of reaching out for help or healing, they respond by tearing others down, hoping that by doing so, they'll feel some sense of relief or control. But this doesn't mean you need to carry their hurt for them. You don't need to absorb their negativity or accept their behavior as your responsibility. What you can do is show compassion from a distance. You can choose not to internalize their words. You can acknowledge that their actions come from a place of pain, and yet you don't have to make it your own. It's incredibly difficult. But once you begin to understand that people hurt others because they haven't healed themselves, you can begin to shift your perspective. You can choose to stop taking their words or actions personally. You can understand that their struggle is about them and not about you. And in that understanding, you can stop letting their hurt define your experience or your worth. Healing is a personal journey, and you cannot force someone to walk it, but you can offer compassion, understanding, and sometimes the simple act of stepping away from their negativity. Protect your peace and your heart, and know that you are not responsible for carrying someone else's unhealed wounds. Their pain is not yours to heal, but it's also not yours to absorb. Jealousy is a complex, often misunderstood emotion. It's one that many people experience, but few are willing to admit. And while it's typically associated with envy or resentment over someone else's success or possessions, jealousy wears many masks. One of the most subtle and most damaging masks it wears is criticism. It's important to recognize that when someone criticizes you or puts you down, it's not always about you. In fact, it's rarely about you. More often than not, it's about how they perceive themselves in relation to you. Criticism, especially when it's harsh or unsolicited, is often a symptom of something deeper, a wound, an insecurity, or even a fear. And underneath that criticism, you may find jealousy lurking in the shadows. At its core, jealousy stems from a feeling of inadequacy or a belief that something someone else has is somehow out of your reach. It might be a dream, an opportunity, a quality, or a success. And instead of embracing that feeling of longing or desire and using it as a source of motivation to create something similar for themselves, some people will choose to project their discomfort outwardly. They'll criticize what you have, what you've achieved, or how you've gotten there, because in doing so, they don't have to confront their own feelings of deficiency. Criticism is one of the most insidious forms of jealousy because it disguises itself as concern, advice, or even humor. A friendly jab might come across as harmless, but underneath it, there's often a subtle attempt to diminish your achievements or undermine your confidence. You might hear phrases like, "Oh, it must be nice to have things so easy," or "I don't know how you manage to keep it all together." These comments may seem casual or lighthearted on the surface, but they're often veiled attempts to project envy onto you. And when you're on the receiving end of that, it can be confusing because these criticisms don't seem like jealousy, they seem like concern or a personal opinion. But here's the thing, jealousy doesn't need to announce itself with the words, "I am jealous of you." It often hides behind criticism because it's easier to criticize what we cannot have than to admit we want it for ourselves. Criticism gives the critic some semblance of control. It allows them to deflect their own feelings of inadequacy or frustration and instead shift the focus onto you. What makes this even harder to navigate is that people who are envious may not always be conscious of it. They may not even realize that their criticism comes from a place of insecurity. But that doesn't mean you have to accept it or internalize it. When you begin to recognize that criticism can sometimes be a mask for jealousy, you can start to take it less personally. You can see it for what it is, an expression of someone else's struggle, not a judgment of your worth or success. You can also begin to discern when someone's words are coming from a genuine place of care versus when they are rooted in a desire to diminish you in order to feel better about themselves. Jealousy, dressed in the cloak of criticism, can sting, but it doesn't define you. It doesn't have to stick. When you hear those biting comments, try not to take them to heart. Instead, recognize them as a reflection of the person speaking them, not of you. The more you can see through the mask of jealousy, the less power those criticisms will have over you. And here's the most important thing to remember. Your worth is not up for debate. Just because someone feels threatened or envious of your success, your qualities, or your achievements doesn't mean they are any less real or valuable. You are worthy of every accomplishment, every moment of happiness, and every ounce of success that you've worked for. The jealousy others feel towards you speaks volumes about their own internal struggle, not yours. The key is to detach from their projections and trust in your own path. Your journey doesn't need validation from those who are too busy looking at your light to realize their own potential. Keep shining, keep doing your work, and remember, when jealousy shows up in the form of criticism, it's a reminder that you're doing something right. Your light is so bright, it's challenging someone else to look at their own. Boundaries are often misunderstood. Many people view them as walls, something cold, rigid, and isolating. But in reality, boundaries are not about keeping people out or shutting yourself off from the world. They are, in fact, the doors that protect the most vital part of you, your inner peace. When we think of boundaries as walls, we see them as barriers to connection, a way to push others away. But that's not their true purpose. Boundaries are not about shutting down or closing yourself off. They are about creating clear, respectful lines that allow you to protect your energy, your time, and your emotional well-being. Think of them as doors that can be opened or closed when needed. They're not permanent blocks, but rather flexible thresholds that help you decide when and how you engage with others. Every day, you encounter situations where your peace is at risk, whether it's a toxic conversation, a draining relationship, or a situation that demands more of you than you're willing to give. Without boundaries, you'll find yourself constantly stretched thin, giving pieces of yourself to everyone else while neglecting your own needs. Over time, this can lead to burnout, resentment, and a profound sense of disconnection from your true self. Boundaries are the protective mechanisms that allow you to say, I'm not available for this right now. They help you guard your emotional and mental space so you can stay grounded and whole. One of the most powerful aspects of boundaries is that they allow you to show up in relationships as your most authentic self. Without boundaries, you may feel obligated to please others, to overextend yourself, or to say yes when your heart says no. This kind of people-pleasing is a form of self-betrayal. It robs you of your time, your energy, and your peace. Boundaries, however, empower you to honor your own needs and desires while still maintaining respect and compassion for others. But here's the catch. Setting boundaries doesn't always feel comfortable, especially if you've spent a lifetime accommodating everyone else. People may resist or push back. They may not understand why you can no longer tolerate certain behaviors or why you're no longer willing to overextend yourself. Some may even feel hurt or rejected because they've grown accustomed to the version of you that was always available, always willing to give, and always seeking to please. But what you must remember is that boundaries are not about punishing others. They are about protecting yourself and creating a space where you can thrive. It's important to note that boundaries are not about controlling others. You cannot dictate how someone else behaves, but you can control how you respond. A boundary might look like saying, I am not available for this kind of conversation right now, or I need some time to recharge, so I'll check in with you later. It could be as simple as saying, no, I can't take on that extra task, or I'm not comfortable with this request. You are not responsible for managing other people's reactions. You are, however, responsible for managing your own peace. Boundaries are essential because they help you maintain a healthy relationship with yourself. They allow you to remain true to your values, your needs, and your priorities. When you have clear boundaries, you create the space to nurture your own well-being. You protect your energy and ensure that you are giving from a place of abundance, not depletion. It's also important to remember that boundaries are not one size fits all. Different relationships and situations will require different types of boundaries. What you're comfortable with in one relationship may not be the same as what you need in another. Boundaries are dynamic. They evolve based on your growth and the needs of the moment. What matters most is that they reflect your values and protect what's most important to you. Here's the beauty of boundaries. When you set them with clarity and compassion, you invite others to respect your peace. By defining what you will and won't tolerate, you create space for deeper, more authentic connections. Boundaries teach others how to treat you, and they communicate your self-respect without you needing to say a word. The key is to remember that your peace is sacred. It is your responsibility to protect it. Boundaries aren't selfish, they're self-preserving. When you honor your own peace, you are better able to show up fully for the people you love, for your work, and for your life. You cannot give from an empty cup, and when you allow your peace to be compromised without boundaries, you begin to feel empty, drained, and disconnected. So remember, boundaries are not walls. They are the doors that allow you to step in and out of relationships and situations with intention, clarity, and peace. They're not about exclusion, but about inclusion, the inclusion of your own well-being in the equation. And here's the most important part. You don't need anyone's permission to protect your peace. Your boundaries are yours to set, and they are an act of self-respect that allows you to show up fully for yourself and for others. You are worthy of peace, and you have the right to create the space in your life that nurtures it. In life, we are often invited into battles, sometimes overt, sometimes subtle. These invitations come in many forms: a sharp comment, a challenge to our beliefs, a disagreement that feels too personal to ignore, or a situation where someone is clearly trying to provoke a reaction. And while it's natural to feel the need to defend yourself or to fight for what you believe in, there's a profound truth that can set you free. You don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. Not every disagreement is worth your energy. Not every challenge deserves your attention. The reality is, some arguments exist solely to drain you, whether that's emotionally, mentally, or spiritually. They aren't about finding resolution or understanding. They're about proving a point, seeking validation, or even perpetuating conflict for the sake of it. And when you engage in these kinds of arguments, you're not moving toward anything meaningful. You're simply spinning in circles, draining your energy on something that will likely leave you feeling empty or frustrated. But here's the beauty of it. You always have a choice. You have the choice not to engage. You have the choice to recognize when a situation is not worth your time or emotional investment. When someone invites you into an argument, whether it's with a friend, a colleague, or even a stranger, you can take a moment to pause, assess the situation, and decide if it's truly worth stepping into. Is this conversation going to lead to mutual understanding? Is this person open to hearing your perspective? Is this argument even about the issue at hand, or is it about something deeper? Hurt feelings, unhealed wounds, or unresolved conflicts. When we engage in every argument, we are often giving away our peace. We are letting someone else dictate our emotional state, allowing their words or actions to trigger a reaction from us. It's easy to get swept up in the heat of the moment, to feel like we need to prove ourselves, to be right, or to defend our honor. But in doing so, we may lose sight of the bigger picture. Our peace, our energy, and our emotional well-being are far more important than winning any argument. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply step back and choose not to participate. This doesn't mean you're weak or that you're conceding defeat. It means you're exercising wisdom. It means you've recognized that the situation is not one you need to engage with. You're protecting your peace by choosing not to allow someone else's conflict to become your own. There's also the reality that not everyone is looking for a resolution. Some people engage in arguments because they thrive on drama, because they are looking for someone to fight with, or because they have unresolved issues that need an outlet. If you take the bait and engage, you're only feeding that cycle. But if you recognize the situation for what it is, a battle that doesn't need your energy, you can walk away and conserve what's truly important. Walking away from an argument isn't about avoiding conflict altogether. It's about choosing your battles wisely. It's about knowing when a conversation has gone past the point of being productive and when it's just spinning in circles. It's about recognizing that your time and energy are too valuable to waste on something that will only drain you. And it's about realizing that you don't need everyone's approval or validation to feel good about yourself. Sometimes silence is far more powerful than any words you could say. It's also crucial to remember that when we choose not to engage in an argument, it doesn't mean we're letting someone win. It's simply about exercising self-control and understanding that some arguments are not meant to be won. They are meant to perpetuate conflict and create division. By refusing to engage, you're sending a clear message that you won't be dragged into something that doesn't serve your higher good. In relationships, whether personal or professional, choosing not to attend every argument can also be an act of respect. It's a way of saying, I value you, but I also value my peace. It's about showing that you can maintain healthy boundaries, that you are not here to prove yourself or engage in drama. You are here to communicate, to understand, and to grow, but not at the expense of your mental and emotional well-being. Let's also be clear, choosing not to engage doesn't mean you're ignoring issues that need to be addressed. It simply means you're choosing the right time and place to address them, when emotions aren't high and when the conversation can be productive. Some issues require calm, thoughtful dialogue, not heated arguments. And by refusing to engage in arguments that are designed to escalate, You're giving yourself the space to approach problems with clarity, calmness, and wisdom. So the next time someone invites you into an argument, ask yourself, is this the right moment to engage? Will this conversation lead to something productive, or will it only drain my energy? Is this worth my peace? If the answer is no, then don't feel obligated to attend. Walk away, take a breath, and protect your energy. In a world that constantly asks for your time, your energy, and your attention, it can be easy to start believing that your value is something that others can define or influence. Whether it's through the expectations of family, friends, society, or even colleagues, it can feel like your worth is something that others get to weigh, measure, or assess. But here's a truth you must hold close. Your self-worth is not negotiable. Your self-worth isn't something that should fluctuate based on the opinions of others, the accolades you receive, or the mistakes you make. It is inherent. It is unshakable. It is woven into the fabric of who you are. You were born worthy. The mistake many of us make is looking outward, seeking validation, approval, or recognition from others as a way to measure our worth. We let the opinions of others dictate how we feel about ourselves, but no one has the right to determine your value except you. We live in a society that often equates worth with achievements, appearance, status, or even productivity. The more you do, the more you give, the more you produce, the more valuable you seem. But the truth is, you are worthy simply because you exist. Your worth is not defined by how much you can give, how well you can perform, or how well others perceive you. It's not up for negotiation. You are not more valuable when you're at your best, and you are not any less worthy when you're struggling or imperfect. Your worth is constant. This is especially important to understand in relationships. How many times have you adjusted yourself, your boundaries, or your actions to gain someone's approval or affection? How many times have you compromised who you are, what you believe, or what you need in order to fit into someone else's version of who you should be? When we do this, we're essentially saying, my worth is determined by whether or not you approve of me. But that's a dangerous game. It's like giving someone else the power to define your value, your worth, your potential. You are not here to please everyone, nor should you feel like you have to constantly prove your value to anyone. Your worth isn't something that should ever be up for debate. If someone cannot see, respect, or acknowledge your worth, whether it's in a friendship, a romantic relationship, or a professional setting, then it's time to reconsider the relationship. No one should be able to treat you as if your worth is something that can be negotiated, traded, or diminished. Your value is not up for sale. Part of truly embracing the idea that your self-worth isn't negotiable is understanding that your needs, your voice, and your boundaries matter just as much as anyone else's. Too often we fall into the trap of thinking that our worth is tied to how much we can sacrifice, how much we can give, or how much we can take on without complaining. But this isn't true. Your worth is not measured by how much you give away at the expense of yourself. In fact, honoring your own worth is one of the most profound acts of self-respect. It means that you recognize that you are enough as you are, that you don't need to change or prove anything in order to be worthy of love, respect, and care. It means that you can stand tall in your own truth without needing to seek constant external validation. It means that you no longer allow others to project their insecurities or doubts onto you, making you question your own value. You are worthy of respect. You are worthy of love. You are worthy of success. And this worth isn't up for negotiation, no matter what the world or others may tell you. It's also crucial to remember that your worth is not contingent on your past mistakes or your current shortcomings. The mistakes you've made, the times you've fallen short, and the things you've failed to achieve don't diminish your worth in any way. You are still worthy even when you're not perfect. This is the power of embracing self-compassion and self-acceptance. Perfection isn't a requirement for worthiness. It's just another unrealistic standard society places on us. You are worthy in your mess, in your imperfections, in your growth, and in your healing. Your worth is not tied to being flawless. It is tied to being human, to being authentic, to showing up as you are, even when you're not at your best. Another vital aspect of knowing your self-worth is being able to stand up for yourself when necessary. When you recognize that your worth isn't up for negotiation, you no longer tolerate mistreatment. You no longer allow people to take advantage of your kindness, your time, or your energy. You set clear boundaries, you speak your truth, and you protect your peace. Standing firm in your worth means that you do not allow others to treat you in ways that undermine your value. You recognize when something doesn't align with your worth, and you choose to walk away from situations, environments, or people who don't honor that worth. And perhaps the most freeing realization of all is that when you accept that your self-worth isn't up for negotiation, you begin to let go of the need to prove yourself. You can simply be. You can live authentically, knowing that you don't have to convince anyone